Welcome to the 59th episode of Slime Time, the official Dragon Quest Dragon's Den podcast. This is Platty M3.
And this is Liamland coming to you live from the Tower of Arp.
Ooh, sounds like a dangerous place for a summer vacation.
Not really. We have some family here. It's a lovely part of the U.S. Nice big-ass trees and wine vineyards.
Well, I mean, yeah, but it's dangerous nonetheless. I mean, my family and I passed through there a few weeks ago, and holy shit, man, it almost broke us.
Oh, yeah, but come on. Dude, it's U.S. News and World Report listed as number 4 best healthcare and number 10 best economy. I mean, ARP ain't all that bad.
Well, more emphasis on the broke part. I mean, like, emotionally and financially. I paid almost $6.69 a gallon for gas. I endured 124-degree heat, drove past a forest fire that was, quote, contained, stayed at the most expensive Days Inn in history, endured the only fog I even saw in 10,500 miles of traveling this summer, and our freaking car got damaged by a tree that insisted we just drive right through it.
Well, that last one seems 100% on you, but other than that, the land of ARP doesn't seem all that bad as you're making it out to be.
Oh, yeah. Well,
all right, maybe it's the side quest part of me, but I need to break in here. What the hell are you two ARPing on about?
Well, you know, that Dragon Quest III, it's kind of shaped like the world, Earth.
Yeah, and the Tower of ARP is located where California should be.
So you're both just talking about California?
Yeah, pretty much.
Yep, exactly.
All right. So that now clears that up a bit. But Bluestar, are you thinking what I'm thinking?
Yes, I am, Yangus. Why did you two plan a Dragon Quest III skit when we're talking about Dragon Quest VIII?
Oh, damn! We're doing 8? As in, like, Roman numeral V? I?
Oh, yeah, sorry. I missed the V. I thought we were doing 3.
Oh, me too. Hell, I thought this was going to be like our shtick for a few more years. We never covered Dragon Quest VIII. Caravan Heart? Check, yep. Game mods that'll never see the light of day? Check, yep. But Dragon Quest VIII? Fuck no.
Yeah, I don't think we ever intended to do that. It's just, it's just the way the pod's cast.
Yeah. Oh, well. I'll just, cut up the intro. My line's still fine. Liam, just go ahead and do yours again.
All right, we'll edit this later. And this is Liamland coming to you live from Western Trodaine.
And this is Yangus, the legendary bandit himself, that knows Platty ain't editing shit. Can we just get on with this?
All right. So I'm actually in California right now for a wedding that I went to this past weekend in South Lake Tahoe. It was beautiful at the top of a ski mountain in the off season, with the lake and the beach about 5 minutes drive from the bottom. Amazing mountain views. And Westy, well, he may or may not have crashed the wedding. I do want to plug the good people at Econo Lodge for not only providing affordable lodgings, but a free used Q-tip on the windowsill in the bathroom. That was that was a nice touch.
A couple weeks ago, we finished up our 32-state, 23-day, 10,000-mile trip from Florida up to Mount St. Helen and then all the way back and hit all the states in between. And I didn't get a free Q-tip at any of the places we stayed. So, damn. I mean, I'd talk more about this, but that's a tale for a future side quest.
32 states. Did you visit Ohio?
Oh, God, no. I mean, you'll just have to listen to the podcast in a few weeks.
Blue, are you in Ohio?
I am in Ohio.
Oh, I don't think I knew that. Because every time someone mentions the state of Ohio, I feel the urge to respond to Ohio gozaimasu. But that is just me and living in Ishigaki. But enough about us. Let's. There's got to be some Japanese people living in Ohio who get confused sometimes when they hear the name of the state.
God, if I actually edited podcasts, I'd put like a 10-second pause after Liam's joke right there. Like,
well, we do edit. Yeah, we cut out the silences, so that's
but that's all automatic.
That joke is gonna nail when you cut that silence out. It's just gonna be like, okay, we'll cut to the point where you're laughing at it right there. Okay, but enough about us. Let's be the last ones to party and discuss the huge DQ news we got in June from the Nintendo Partner Direct.
That's right. Seems like I may owe a certain somebody on Discord $1, because now we know we're actually getting DQ treasures this year. I totally been on the pessimistic side of that one for quite a while. But no, we're not getting
it. $1 to. I'm curious.
Oh, it was somewhere in someone's like, oh, I bet DQ Treasures is going to be on the next Nintendo Direct. And I was like, I bet like $1 million that ain't going to be true. And then they pointed me to an article that was talking about how like we would get some game news, and it was gonna be something was gonna be featured in late June. I was like, oh yeah, I
So
totally
you
read that
actually
wrong.
you actually owe him $1 million, not $1.
No. I switched the bet right then. It was still 3 days early. I'm gonna switch that bet to $1.
That was a good idea.
He just edited the post. Don't listen to him.
Yeah. But I guess if you don't remember who it was, then you don't owe him anything.
That's right. It was from the it might have been Liquid Metal Slime, to be honest. If I think that's who mentioned it. But I swear, like in my head, that what is it? The Dragon Quest 36 anniversary announcement when they were like, oh, more news on treasures in June. I thought that was like a Japan only, like, oh, more news on treasures in Japan coming in. And then when I went back and read it, I was like, oh no, I just put that in Japan in my head, because every other Dragon Quest game ever gets the thing. But hey, for the first time ever, we're not playing it after the Japanese have completed all the post-game content and DLCs. We're getting it day and date, same worldwide.
Nice.
Woo!
Woo! What a treasure.
Yes.
Get out. Get out. Get out of your own
Congratulations,
podcast. Get
you
out.
actually made me laugh with one of your jokes.
Oh man. Hopefully
See,
that
it
won't
didn't
be the
even need
last.
to edit that laughter in.
Yeah. Hopefully that won't be the last pun of the podcast.
This is Dragon Quest. Are you kidding me? This is. You think we're gonna not have puns in here?
So we have a
So we just
we have a getting to
Go
know
ahead.
your guests. We have the getting to know your guests section.
That's
Yeah.
right. It's time to get to know our guests.
But, Platty, you already know us, which is probably why Liam is laughing and just
Already.
sort of not really sure how to handle this situation.
Yes.
Insert awkward transition.
Well,
That's
I-
no. That's when you need to
maybe
have
we
like
don't
the
ma-
audience. That's when you need to have the audience laugh track and then the Seinfeld. Do 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 do.
maybe we don't truly know you guys until we have this.
We could just insert the cursed sound there.
I'd have thought after a few dozen side quests and my recent lunch with you and your family, Platty, might have, bred some familiarity there.
I mean, this is what happens when we copy and paste our old episode outlines. But,
Exactly.
well,
At least
it
he
is.
bothered to come visit you, Yangus.
Next
you-
summer. Next summer. Take a
You
day
just
off.
show up. Yeah, just show up unannounced.
June 9th.
Hey, I'm
we'll
here.
plan it right now. June 9th.
You got your couch ready? Well, it's finally here. It took us what, like 3 years to do a Dragon Quest VIII episode?
Yeah, I mean, we had to get all the fan favorites out of the way. Like I said earlier, Caravan Heart, Dragon Quest Wars, and the ballet. God damn it! How did we talk about that fucking ballet episode before we got to Dragon Quest VIII? Who the hell let that happen?
Well, better late than never for Dragon Quest VIII.
Eh,
And hey, we got you to
True.
watch a ballet.
that is true. You got me to watch YouTube. That's something I usually don't do.
Make sure it didn't happen.
Well, we got a
Okay.
podcast recording, and it did happen.
Go to the YouTube version of it. There are pictures of the ballet.
Do we have
Well,
actually
you watching
pictures?
the ballet.
Did somebody take pictures of you watching it?
It's just him.
That would have been
It's
pretty
just that-
creepy.
It's just Platty sitting there with like his eyes are glazed over watching it. His kids are sitting
Yeah.
there taking
He's
the
got
picture.
He's got tears of joy in his eyes from how moved he is by it.
What's funny is I remember all the details of watching it that night because I think it was like the night before we were going to record or something like that. And I sat there and I was going to be on another podcast that didn't start till like 11 p.m. Eastern. And I'm like, well, I just drank a huge ass cup of coffee. Better watch this shit for tomorrow night. Then I proceeded to talk about it on the other podcast for a few minutes. Like, oh, you will not believe what I just watched.
Which podcast are you talking about?
I did the Q&A quest. The
Oh God, you would not believe what I just watched. To
Yeah.
hear more about it, go to Go to the
check it out in
Slime-
about 3 days on Slime
Yeah.
Time.
It's like one of those. Oh, this tastes awful. Try it.
Yep. Would you like some Beverly? You ever have that at any of the Coca-Cola World things?
I have no idea what that is.
Oh, it's a soda, and it happened in 20 years ago. I was in Atlanta, and I did the whole World of Coca-Cola thing, and they got like 70 different drinks there. And
Oh
the
my
tour guide's
God.
going, oh yeah. I mean, Coca-Cola makes just think how many products they got in the market here.
Oh, yeah, true.
Multiply that by 20, 30 other countries. And so the guy's like passing out cups and you can taste all the ones that you want. And he's like, oh, y'all should try Beverly from Italy. It's great. And I noticed a couple people snickering, but I'm like, whatever, I'll try Beverly. It was the most disgusting drink ever. It was just, and everybody thought so. It wasn't like a couple people were like, yeah, this is great. No, it was all bad. And then years later, they put in a tasting station at Epcot. And it's like the only thing you could do for free at a Disney park is go in and sip 2 ounces of soda at a time. And no, they used to rotate all the flavors, but Beverly was always there. It was like, man, Coke is leaning into that joke.
Finally, the essence.
Even when they only got like 10 taps
in a soda.
I missed part of the beginning of that conversation, and I heard Platty talk about Coca-Cola World, and then Liam ask, "What is that?" And Platty say, "It's a soda." And I'm like, Liam, you've been away from the United States for too long if you don't know what Coca-Cola is.
No, that was like, what is that in terms of Beverly? Because all I could picture was like a Beverly D'Angelo as a soda.
Now, see, it's funny because I pictured a Beverly Goldberg from that show, The Goldbergs, as a soda. You take a sip of it, you just feel all perky and chipper, and you suddenly find yourself wearing a crazy, like, bad Christmas sweater all of a sudden.
Oh, look at it. It's even got its own Wikipedia page, and it says the bitter taste of Beverly has become familiar to many Americans who get a chance to try it at Coca-Cola tasting stations.
Familiar.
Staff there have explained the flavoring ingredient as grapefruit rind. So, if you're ever in the mood for some grapefruit rind.
Sounds delicious.
Yeah, well. Okay, so let's get away from talking about bitter stuff to happy things.
I'll add Beverly to the to-do list.
Yeah.
But let's
Let's
finally talk about Dragon Quest VIII.
Look at that to-do list.
You know, it would be amazing if this whole episode was just tangents and then we never get to talk about Dragon Quest VIII at all.
Come back next time on episode.
That's all the time we have for today.
Topic. We're not allowed to talk about it.
What's that? We were supposed to talk about Dragon Quest VIII. Oh, sorry, too bad.
We really do like the game, though. That's why it was important to gather all 4 of us. So let's finally talk about it.
We spent 3 months trying to schedule this.
This is true.
Okay. No more soda. No more soda and Beverly D'Angelo tangents.
No, not Beverly, please. No.
Wait, Beverly D'Angelo? You know what game has a character named Angelo?
Yes. Thank you.
I can
Bringing
think
it right back. Bringing it right back.
That's the princess of transitions right there.
Speaking of transitions,
You can't just transition off of my transition.
Speaking of transitioning off your transitioning, that reminds me of...
Speaking of a princess that transitioned into something else.
Yes. Okay, so now that we've got to know our guests a little bit better.
I mean, if the guests didn't know me well enough from SideQuest at this point, then where have you people been? First off, I'm Yangus. Hello, it's nice to talk to you.
If this is your first
Yangus,
slime
you missed your chance. We just finished the get to know your guests better section.
Hey, speaking of getting to know your guests better, that reminds me.
All right, no more tangents, please. Let's talk DQ8.
All right. So before we talk DQ8, the marketing for Dragon Quest VIII in the United States centered primarily on a website called SlimeNights.com. Were any of you members of the SlimeNights.com? Or Blue, were you not allowed to go on the internet when you were that young?
Boomers. No, I don't know that I knew the internet existed. I was like 7.
Yeah, I was gonna say this is 15 years ago. Oh shit! Holy crap!
Wow.
Yeah, I had no idea Slime Nights existed until I started hearing some of the longtime members of the Den talk about it.
So Platty, you were part of it, right?
Oh yeah, I did a lot there. So SlimeNights.com went up. It was a marketing website for the Dragon Quest VIII specifically. It then had a whole forum area, and every time you posted, you got points. They had contests that they would run all the time. There's always 1 or 2 contests going, and a lot of them were if you participate, you got points, or if you won, you got a certain prize plus points. They had this whole point system, and I never got into the forums very much. I was very active on the Den back then, but I did every single contest. I participated in every contest. I loved it. I got deep into it. I remember I was talking about this last week on my RPG Backtrack because SlimeKnights.com, speaking of transitions, transitioned into promoting the first Joker game when that came out. About a year and a half after Dragon Quest VIII came out. And I don't know if it was then or it was earlier. Like I remember having my wife put on like a black ski mask, black long sleeve shirt, black pants, black socks, and then wrapping her up in toilet paper for one of the contests where you were supposed to dress to look like a Dragon Quest monster. And I was like, well, shit, dressing like a mummy's pretty easy, really. So I took a picture of my ex-wife dressed like a mummy, doing the whole pose with the one arm up, the one arm down. The mummy that Yangus, you so lovingly found at Walmart being ripped off.
Yeah,
years ago, the rip-off magnet.
Magnet.
I wish I could have found that knockoff magnet.
That's probably the best find I've ever had at a Walmart.
Yeah.
But yeah, I won a T-shirt. I had so many points. I got a T-shirt from it. I got I don't know if it was one of the contests I won or I used my points again to get a free PS2 slime controller at the time that has in subsequent years turned into slime because the coating they put on that thing many years ago did not do well in unair-conditioned storage. But then I got another T-shirt as the website was, I got one for maybe buying the game or whatever. I got one free, contest or whatever, and then I bought another one, and that's the T-shirt I wore when I met Liam, 7 years ago up in New York. You had yours on too, right?
Yeah, my girlfriend at the time got it on eBay.
Yep. So it was a great website. There was a marriage that happened because of that website, and the only reason I know is for a little bit of time when it finally closed down after about 3 years, a lot of the people at least tried the Den for a while and didn't really stick around. But yeah, there was a couple that met on Slime Nights and got married. And one of the last things, and I see it every year or so when I dig through boxes or whatever, the guy who was running it back then, the marketing exec, called himself King Slime. And at the end, when it was getting ready to shut down, he asked anybody to directly message him our home address, and he sent anybody that did that a Dragon Quest playing card in a sealed envelope, and it's even got like a sticker on the back that's like do not open or whatever. And it was always, and it was, I think it was called the Great Hope. It's like the great hope that one day we'll meet again on the internet somewhere. So I've still got my envelope sealed for my great hope.
How did you know what was in it if you didn't open it? Did somebody else open it?
You can everybody, it was on the forums, like I'll send you a card or whatever. And I can hold it up to the light. I don't know what card I got in there. I can see like a playing card. It's probably one of the trading cards.
Oh, that's cool.
But I don't know what trading card it is because I've never opened the envelope.
Yeah. Oh, that's pretty symbolic. That's pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
So I was actually heavily involved in the Enix forums when Square Enix shut that down in 2003 post-merger, and not long after they started Slime Nights. So I remember when Slime Nights started, I was still kind of ticked off that we'd lost our Dragon Quest community home that I spent so many hours and met so many friends on. So I never actually really joined up, and in retrospect, it was my loss. I know that they were doing a lot of cool stuff with the fan interactions and contests, but I also think they kind of exercised poor Dragon Quest tact, by sunsetting the forums without actually actively trying to retain that audience. There was like a period in between. You like the Dragon Quest tact? I'm trying to have a serious conversation.
Speaking of Dragon Quest,
I threw that line.
I think we should talk about that game instead.
Dragon Quest Tact had a Dragon Quest VIII event. I just pulled.
Hey, speaking of Dragon Quest VIII, that's what we're talking about right now. Liam, please continue.
It was poor tact by sunsetting the forums without actively trying to kind of retain that audience, I thought. But I do like that interaction. I don't think we would see that again until much later when they were actively promoting it on social media and doing contests and stuff like that.
I run Dragon Quest VI on a Twitter contest, so
yeah, they
did pick that up. And you know what? The whole Slime Nights thing was the reason why I started the contest on the forums all those years ago. So
awesome. I don't think I knew that, or if you've said that before, then I may have forgotten. That's cool.
So yeah, they started probably 2008. 2009 after it was done. I was like, man, those were fun. Let me do these. We got no prizes to send to anybody, but you can get a cool little badge on the Den.
That's better than a prize.
It is. It's
digital,
own prize.
It's there forever.
Intrinsic motivation.
Yes.
All right. So when did we all first play Dragon Quest VIII? What version? What did you play first? Bluestar, since you were too young to be Slime Night person, let's start with you.
Okay. So I don't know exactly what year it was that I first played the game. I want to say 2006, 2007-ish. Because I was like 8 or something at this point, so the years all blend together. But we had just gotten a hand-me-down PS2 from my uncle, and we went to GameStop and just sort of looked for a bunch of stuff. And Dragon Quest VIII was $8 in the bargain bin at GameStop.
Nice. $1 for every game.
$1 for every game. And since then, for the longest time, my parents have said it's the best $8 we've ever spent. It probably took me a good couple of years to actually beat it the first time, because there were a lot of times where I was like, between me and my dad, who mostly started playing it, and at some points we got stuck, and I ended up being like, I want to get unstuck, and I'll talk about that a little more later, and just sort of ran around aimlessly. But it being my first like real RPG, it definitely took some time for me to beat it the first time. But since then, I've probably played the PlayStation 2 version at least 10 times, and I've played the 3DS version twice. It's like a yearly thing. I don't have a set schedule for when I decide to replay DQ8, but it happens about once a year.
Yeah, that's fair, because you know what, I have plenty of games too, like from when I was younger, that I replay on a near yearly basis. We all have that, like, games that we have that with, so very relatable.
So Yangus, when did you first play?
Hey, speaking of relatable. All right, I'll try and stop doing that. I make no promises. So,
hey, speaking of promises,
did I ever tell you about the time that I promised? All right. Joking aside, though, when I first played Dragon Quest VIII, it was, I'm pretty sure it was and it's been a few years for me too. First time that I played it was during what I like to call my Dragon Quest high period, because it was, one, a joke because I was playing all these Dragon Quest games in high school, but two, it's also because I was really into Dragon Quest at that point after having not played it for years and years. I was
really disappointed. I was waiting to hear. I played a lot of games when I was high. Like,
I thought you
I could have made that joke, but, I figured your guys' imagination would probably make that joke for me, so it worked.
There you go.
So,
Did it for you. Carry on.
So I'm pretty sure, if I remember right, that I played Dragon Quest VIII in my senior year of high school, because I played like a lot of the DS ones in my junior year. So it was like 2011, 2012, which is my senior year of high school, that I eventually got to play Dragon Quest VIII. I had to borrow a PS2 from a friend of mine because I did not own a PS2 at the time. I eventually did get my own PS2, and I also had to buy a brand new copy of the game because the used one that I had bought like a few months prior to starting it, it kept freezing up on me at certain points of the game. There wasn't like really any set times when it would do it. It just every now and then, I think just because the disc was scratched up, it would get to a point where it was like, and it was like just I'd have to hard reset my system.
I actually had a scratch disc too. It wouldn't let me go back to Fairbury when I got the Thief Ski. I had to buy another copy.
Oh, weird. But I mean, yeah, like I was able to actually find an unopened copy, like a brand new one off of Amazon for like $40, and this is like 2012, 2013, something like that. So I was really surprised that, at the time I was able to find one for that price, because sometimes PS2 games, depending on the rarity of them, they could be a little expensive even back then.
Yeah.
Anyway,
especially now.
Yeah, especially now, because frickin' used market. But anyway,
$8, baby.
I've played Dragon Quest VIII like 4 different times, if I remember correctly. 3 times on the PS2. My last file in there actually being what I called the quote unquote worst weapons playthrough, where I just picked like what it's kind of generally considered like the worst weapon choices for the characters. And I played it once on the 3DS. I've been meaning to replay. I've been meaning to replay the 3DS version, but admit it, like I want to play it on my 3DS XL that I have. But honestly, I'm a little afraid to do that, because every time, like for some reason, they made it so that if you have it in one 3DS, like all your pictures are just attached to that SD card, and if you want to swap over to another 3DS, it's like, oh, you're gonna lose all your picture data. And me being the way I am, I'm just like, no, I don't want to lose all that, even though I could just make backups. It's like, I don't want to if something happens. But yeah, I think if I remember right, I played it 4 times. I actually remember one of the times I played it, it was during one of my winter breaks in college, and I like basically flew through the game in like the 3 weeks I had off for my winter break.
3 whole weeks? Those are rookie numbers.
Blue, you were about to ask what were the worst weapons that that you used, right?
Yeah.
No. Well, I've always generally seen it that the worst weapons are usually go boomerang because it's only multi-focus.
Mhm.
Clubs for Yangus because in order to get his best club, you also have to get rid of his best axe. And club skills are not really as useful as scythe or axe skills, especially not axe skills. For Jessica, it's swords because she's a magic character, so her using a sword / daggers is really not the most effective thing. Plus, daggers were not really a useful weapon until Dragon Quest XI when they really retooled them. And for Angelo, it was really there wasn't really one in particular for Angelo other than staves, just because usually people use them either for the sword skills or for the bow skills. So staves was like, yeah, go with that.
It's interesting. I would have thought worst weapons would be like all fisticuffs.
That's what I was going to say.
That's another challenge run. I purposely picked weapons though, not fisticuffs. I want to do a fisticuffs run at some point, but if I really wanted to,
I mean, thin air attack, you can do worse. So
they're all just
really, if you wanted to do some really bad,
Magus.
if you really wanted to have some difficulties with a fisticuffs run, you should look at Red's fisticuffs skill set in the 3DS remake. The game even purposely tells you that this is not a good idea to put points into it. And that's pretty bad when even the game is telling you that. And it just is like, well, if the devs knew it wasn't going to be her best skill set, why did they make it as bad as they did?
Has anyone ever farmed skill seeds and just try to max out everything like Dragon Quest IX style?
Hell no.
No. Yeah,
I don't do any seed farming, period. I usually just get extra ones just because.
Someone on the Den once said they did that, but that there was absolutely no benefit to it.
I can't even imagine how long that would take.
That
either,
person is that person is a hero for at least communicating that to us.
I can see that it might be useful for the 3DS version because some of the second bonus dungeon bosses they're really hard.
Right.
They're really hard. So having those extra options for some extra strategies, I could see where that would come into play.
Yeah.
However, I still haven't even gotten through the whole second bonus dungeon, so
Me neither, sorry.
Wah, wah.
Well, Platty, when did you first you first play?
I got it right at launch. I bought a slim PS2 for it. I didn't have one at the time, but once I knew it was coming, definitely bought the game. And I distinctly remember the day at work that I ran up the road, bought the game, got the strategy guide, had them both pre-ordered at GameStop, and the school I was teaching, and then I used to have a huge walk-in closet with all these science supplies. And I was like, you know what? I had like a 2-hour break. I'm like, I don't want to be disturbed. I just went in the closet, put a chair in, shut the door, and like I just flipped through the strategy guide for an hour. It was really cool.
A classroom closet makes way more sense than just reading that on the notes and being like, oh yeah, Platty hid in the closet reading the strategy guide.
You're reading the Cliff Notes version.
Well, I didn't want to say anything, but Platty did tell me about his closet escapades when we met up. I'm glad that we can at least breach this topic now, because I feel a little uncomfortable.
I've opened the door to the closet.
Oh, Platty, you came out of the closet. Congratulations, buddy.
Thank you. I remember I also bought that day a remote control LG controller for the PS2. I was like, man, I'm going all out. Let me just I'm not going to be tied to a wire for this game. I was pretty pumped, and yeah, buying the slim PS2 for this game was a way better deal than when I bought my 3DS at launch for Terry's Wonderland that never came out. So yeah,
ouch.
But I too played through this game. Let's see, I kind of like Angus. I played 4 times, played through twice on PS2. By golly, I think I might have been the only one in the den that played and rolled credits on the frickin' mobile version. I played that thing all the way to the end.
Oh
man, I even beat a good amount of the bonus dragons at the end.
Okay,
I thought it was going to be when I did it.
I forgot to mention this because you brought it up. Speaking of the mobile version, but no, seriously. Like, okay, so when we originally were doing that mobile contest for the mobile,
we had the light speed
Quest
contest
8,
for all of them.
Yeah, we had the light speed and buying it within a certain time frame. Okay, so I was in college at the time, and I bought a copy of the game after classes one day. I get it downloaded onto my phone and get started up. I couldn't even get past the first few lines of Yangus's dialogue before the game would force close out of my my phone. I couldn't continue, and I was like, that's like $20 down the drain right there.
Right.
That
It was
was
not
like-
cheap.
That was the case for me. I finally got a touchscreen phone. I want to say I was like 14, and I was like, oh my gosh, I can play Dragon Quest VIII on another platform. I was so excited, and it just didn't work, and I was so sad.
Yeah, I was so fucking pissed.
So
It's
I
like-
have a phone that could probably run it now, but I have
Yeah.
not.
Yeah.
Right. It
spent
depends on the device speed, because I had an iPad 2 and the game was playable, but it would crash occasionally. And then when I upgraded to an Air 2, it hasn't crashed at all.
Yeah,
That's what I played on. I played on the iPad generation 2. And I want to say I played 60, 70 hours, and I remember distinctly 5 crashes. And it was like pretty well spaced out, like every about 10 hours, 10, 12 hours.
When it did it autosave, so like the crashes weren't that bad. I seem to kind of remember that.
There was an autosave, which it was like autosave when you walked in and out of places.
Mhm.
Because I want to say it was really easy to scam but save scum at the casino that way.
Yeah.
Because
Guilty.
with that version, you just walk in the casino. If you lose, whatever, swipe the app away. When it comes back, you're walking in the casino again. You don't have to go through the whole rigmarole of saving. So
Exactly what I did.
and then, of course, I played the 3DS version when it came out as well. So, Liam, when did you play?
So in late 2005, it was released for in the US on PS2. So that's when I had it. I got a sneak peek in the summer of 2005 at a gaming store in Japan during my first trip. I think a lot of people also picked this up specifically because of the Final Fantasy 12 demo that was kind of added in as a bonus to the game. Did you guys hear any of that? I think a lot of people, for a lot of people, it was like their first time playing a DQ game and they bought it specifically for the FF demo.
No. Well, I can't say that for my case because like what was it, like 2005? I would have been like 4th grade in the first part of the year, 5th grade in the second part of the year. So I really do not remember much being said about that. Like even when I was in elementary school at the time, most people. I can't even think of like what games would have been talked about the most when I was about that age. I know a lot of kids my age had PS2s, but I don't think anybody ever really mentioned Dragon Quest VIII or Final Fantasy 12. But I think I was in a young enough age group too at the time that not a lot of kids were into RPGs that much, Or well, if they were, it was mostly going to be like Pokemon.
Yeah, around me it was mostly Pokemon, like FIFA and Call of Duty. So.
Oh,
Call of Duty. That's pretty young for Call of Duty.
Well.
That's been around for a long time. It's been around. I think it's been around since like the PS2 days, actually.
But what age were you playing Call of Duty? Is it?
I wasn't playing it. I don't know what all of those.
She said that's what was around.
Yeah, that would have been
right.
like that would have been around then.
All right. It's like all the kids all the kids in my elementary school were playing Call of Duty.
Oh, well, no, probably when I was that age, like a lot of kids were probably playing like Grand Theft Auto, like San Andreas and things like that,
Oh yeah, that was a big one too.
Yeah. So, a lot of stuff that's not really supposed to be played by that age, but of course they did.
Right. Now they can just watch it on YouTube.
Well, now they can play the wonderful remasters that came out last year that have absolutely no problems to them whatsoever.
Yeah.
No siree.
Yeah. And definitely don't research.
I feel like
before you buy
there's some sarcasm there.
Oh, what? Me being sarcastic? No, never. I am never sarcastic. This is false allegations.
So, so what did everyone think of the overall plot? I think Blue, you only put the heart symbol in the notes, and that was it.
Yep. I mean, I put more. Hey, I put more than all of you combined.
This is true.
I didn't look at the notes until today. Get off my back.
I also didn't look at the notes until today. Get on my level.
You only put in a heart though, so you didn't do much either.
Well, let's see. Liam and I wrote nothing for this, so.
So you're saying that Blue's an overachiever then? She put in.
No, it has. It's a good thing we took 3 years to kind of come up with nothing.
Yep.
These are the parts of the podcast we can talk about off the top of our head.
Yeah, I mean I thought it was a pretty strong plot. It moved moves along.
It definitely it's my favorite game, so I'm not.
It does move along.
It drives us. Sorry, go ahead, Blue.
I'm not gonna skimp and say that it's not my favorite plot. It's my favorite game. It's my favorite plot. There are a lot of really interesting and cool storytelling, sort of strategies that they use, and I really enjoy how like everything that happens is kind of important to sort of the end of the story. I also really like in the beginning how they start out with just sort of a black and white sort of overview that's like a scepter spoken of in lore, a curse or some, I forget the exact wording, but they kind of show you that a castle gets cursed and it says your journey starts here.
Yeah, that was actually added for the Western release specifically.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because the reason why the 3DS version in both the West and Japanese one and the Japanese original PS2 release doesn't start with that is because it was not originally the intended start. It was supposed to start with the shot of Munchie looking on at Farbury.
Whoa.
Yep.
See, that's really trippy because I argued with my brother about that scene being the actual opening or not. However, opening aside, just sort of the way that you sort of get thrown into this, we're traveling with some weird green man who calls the horse a princess, and he's asking us to try to find some guy named Dualmagus. But to find some guy named Dualmagus, we have to find some guy named Calderasha. And just going from there, as you continue advancing the story, you just sort of get the blanks of just sort of how you got into this situation. They're filled in as you go, which I think it's really cool and it's really intriguing. And even all the way up until, the very end where you get to the post-game stuff, at that point they fill you in on, the reasons how the hero got to Trodain in the first place and why he's immune to curses and things like that. How far deep into spoilers are we going with this? I don't know. But
we spoiled the hell out
of
it.
This game's old enough now. I think it's gonna be fine. So,
okay.
Spoiler alert going forward. I guess if you haven't played Dragon Quest VIII, get out of the video or get out of the podcast.
But yeah, so going through and you go to the very first. So the very first is with Calderasha and the Crystal Ball. Geezer, who's an amazing first boss, he sees you and he's like, oh, you must be that single survivor from the cursed castle that I heard about out west. And you're just like, wait, what? There was only one survivor from the castle that was cursed? And just going along, and it's really cool to sort of see the whole scenario open up as you're exploring the world.
Yeah, definitely. That was my favorite. One of my favorite story beats was just the emotion of returning to Trodain and the flashbacks that show the attack and the demise, and that the main character's role. They kind of slowly kind of unravel the fact that he was a soldier when it happened, and just getting to know his character anymore. And then just going back and seeing it all destroyed, and kind of going through, reliving the trauma of the hero by going back there.
I think it's also really. Go ahead, Platty.
Oh, I was gonna say overall, like you had mentioned it, Blue, and it got me thinking. How you say like everything's connected in this. It wasn't a lot of like throwaway stuff. Like Dragon Quest VII. I love that game, but you could take out 5-10 aisles, and you'd still have the same game. It's not like everywhere has that. I mean, even stuff that you don't expect comes back to get you later when it's turned out, hey, guess who your father was, and your mother was here. This doesn't open up to the post game when you find out more, because you get the clues in Argonia that there was a brother that was gone.
Yep, and the first time you walk into the throne room, King Clavius does a double take because you're a dead ringer for his brother, which is probably something that, by the time you visit Argonia the first time and by the time you get to the post game, you probably have forgotten that happened. But when you go through and replay the game, you notice it, and just seeing that, oh, this was intended the entire time is really cool.
Yeah, I remember first time playing the game that when it got to that point where the king reacts to you, it's like, okay, this is probably going to be a story beat that comes back later somehow. But it was cool to see how it came back later, because then it's like, oh, okay, that's why the reaction was what it was when you first got there. Because I remember first time playing the game, I'm like, what's this dude freaking out about? Why is he like, who is this mysterious person walking in? And that's
wasn't all just
that's the laugh he made too after he got done. By the way, he went. That's why he always is so serious faced, the King of Argonia. He doesn't want people to hear his real laugh.
Do I really sound like that?
No. That's what Charmel sounds like when he laughs. Goes, hee hee. That's where his high pitched voice comes from.
Platty, do you have any?
Even the very second scenario where you go to Alexandria and you find out that, you know, the son of the sort of, I guess, ruling house has recently been killed. That comes out, I mean, obviously Jessica is his younger sister, and so that's a big part of, you know, her story and her arc going forward, but it comes back all the way into the end and just being okay. How, like, why is Dulmagus going around and targeting these people specifically in order to...
Yep.
And just the fact that you meet and fight Dulmagus and it's only the first half of the game. Like, up into this, every Dragon Quest game, you know, yeah, of course, it's almost never the final boss, but usually it turns right around at that time, and, you know, Dragon Quest II, it's, oh, guess what? It's me.
Yeah, because,
and,
really...
like, right at the end, and, you know, sure, you got a little bit more in Dragon Quest III, where you drop down and have to fight Zoma, you know, a few hours after and everything, but this one's, like, smack dab in the middle. You got a lot of game to go.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say, because, like, with Dragon Quest III, they do have the surprise reveal at the end where it's like, oh, you thought you beat the Lord of Darkness? Well, guess what? You got to go fight Zoma now, son. Baramos was just his lackey.
However, they do it a little bit differently. And, I mean, even in, like, Dragon Quest VI, you finish off Murdaugh really early in the game. But immediately after you sort of find out, no, I guess Dragon Quest VI does this a little bit differently too, or at least you go back to Somnia, and Somnia, they immediately give you another quest to sort of go out into the world and find something. In Dragon Quest VIII, you kill Dulmagus and you're like, okay, so the curse isn't broken. What now? And, you know, obviously the next morning you wake up and Jessica's mysteriously missing, but it doesn't really immediately come in and be like, oh, there's another big bad. And it sort of takes you a little bit of time to actually figure out what the second half of the story, now that Dulmagus is gone, is going to be.
Very true.
I know this is going to be edited out, but there was like a long pause of silence where we actually all thought about like the meaning of that. And it wasn't, I don't think it was like, it was all, we were all just kind of thinking like, yeah, that's so true. That's a really good point. I don't know, you know, not a lot of people liked Dragon Quest VI's non-linearity, but I loved the exploration of that world. And I also love the exploration of this, of Dragon Quest VIII's world. You know, the first really fully like 3D game. I guess you could argue that 7 was somewhat 3D, but like this is like,
well, yeah,
it has
7's
more of an
weird.
open...
It's like the 7's kind of weird.
It's
though.
2D
It's
LT.
It's a 2.5D game.
2D LT.
It's not the 2D HD that they got nowadays, man. That was 2D and low def.
yeah. Actually, that kind of is like a good way to put it. Or you can call it like 2.5 because you know you have these 2D characters in a 3D world that they had to make up and everything. But
the 2D man.
But part of some of my favorite things about the game was just the non-linear exploration of the world. Like, oh, what's here? There's a chest. Oh, what's here? There's a a stronger monster that gives you a coin after. You know,
what's this dinosaur doing outside the very first town? Oh, I'm dead.
Oh yeah.
You gotta learn quick.
Now, see, this was the first game since I guess 4, because I played 5, 6, 7. This is the first game since 4 that like I had the strategy guide and the map and could just lay it in front of me. And if I'm not mistaken, the strategy guide was done spoiler free.
Yeah.
I mean, sure, it showed some bosses if you went far, but it didn't. Like, I kind of just flipped through it to be like, oh, where's the next town I'm going? Where's the next town? And, I mean, I wasn't sitting there reading monster stats and all. In the back, I was going through the alchemy pot, like, galore with it. But
that's exactly what I used it for, too.
Oh, yeah.
For I could make the most out of the alchemy pot. Because sometimes the recipes that you find, they'll be like, oh, you need to use these specific items. But then sometimes it's real cryptic bullshit where it's like, oh, you need to get this specific thing and this specific thing. Oh, what's the thing you need? Oh, sorry, we're not going to tell you that part. Good luck, idiot.
Yeah.
That was something that they changed in the 3DS version. Like the books that you read, it'll still say if you combine a helmet and something bronze, you'll get a bronze helmet. But if you go into the alchemy recipe book after that, it will show you exactly what you need. Oh. So that's like the other quality of life improvement that the 3DS version got for the alchemy pot.
But no, back to what Liam said, I love the exploration of this one, and maybe it is the 3D world because the exploration in Dragon Quest VI killed me pretty fast, but in this game, like every time I play it, like I'll just, point myself towards a mountain peak and go over there and explore behind every tree because there's treasure chests and whatnot.
The exploration is actually one of the, and there's a section later where we're going to talk about which is the best version to play, and the exploration part is one of the things that I think takes a big hit in the 3DS version, because the 3D world and how vast it just doesn't come across well on a small, tiny screen, and I actually think right now there's not really a good way to play the game and get the full amount out of it, because obviously 3DS has so many quality of life things that are good, but it just loses that sort of open, vastness that the PlayStation 2 version had that, made it really special.
Well, part of the problem too is the processing power of the 3DS versus the versus the PS2, what they were able to pull off, because like the 3DS version still looks good, but you can tell that environmentally things had to take a hit because there's some saturated colors. They had to cut out a lot of the foliage that was present in the PS2. Like they had to do a lot to squeeze it onto the 3DS cartridge, I think.
Yeah, and it's not even that, like the PlayStation 2 version, the visuals still actually hold up really well.
Yeah.
So
that cell shaded look they use still holds up really
exactly.
well. So good.
Like it's the same way with a lot of GameCube games too. Like if you go back and look at like the Legend of Zelda Wind Waker on GameCube, that game still looks pretty damn good. And it's been like nearly 20 years since that game came out.
Definitely.
Oh, one of the other things that I was going to mention about the plot is that there's actually a lot of extra plot that you can get just from, talking to NPCs and reading books that I feel like wasn't nearly as fleshed out in other games. Because, like, I'm thinking specifically with most of the books in Trodain. In one of the rooms you find a book that says the young whatever you named your hero character has already risen to the rank to the position of palace guard. It's so cool to see the young boy we took in as just an outcast doing so well, and it seems like the princess has taken quite a shine to him as well. So going through and just getting those sort of sub points throughout the whole of everything, I think is really cool. And I definitely feel like the books in Dragon Quest VIII, I mean, partly because of alchemy pot recipes, but it just seems like there's a lot more meaningful text to read there than there was maybe in, the earlier games. Because I know 4, 5, and 6, they have all got, like, those stories. I mean, one's about the 4 furry friends in Dragon Quest V, and you read it in several installments, but it doesn't really pertain to the actual world that you're in.
It kind of depends on the game too. Like sometimes they just more so have that for like fun flavor text to find. I think as the series went on, they started doing more trying to tie in some things with the plot. But for the most part, the books are usually just kind of like, oh hey, look at this fun little thing. You found a secret. But
I always loved when they would have that, like the guy writes a diary and he writes a new chapter in every town, and he prints this little side story that really has nothing to do with the plot. It's just there for extra lore.
Yeah, Dragon Quest VII does that pretty well too, I think, because there's times where, like, if you're in the past, you'll find one version of a book. You go to the present, you find like it might be written from like one of their descendants' point of views, or could be like just another person in the town that maybe discovered the old book. I can't remember which part I'm thinking about. I think it might be the robot town that I'm specifically talking about, where it's not related to the story that happens at that point, but it's just someone else that's like, I found these like old robots and things, and this is so interesting, blah 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 blah, just sort of things like that. But anyway, for like my take on Dragon Quest VIII story, I remember liking it a good deal. I definitely liked the difference with it too, having all this voice acting in it, which I think for the most part the voice acting is pretty good. There's a few of like mainly just kind of these one-off characters you see in scenes where I feel like the voice actors were just kind of hamming it up, but in a very bad way.
Did you mean Master Domenico?
No. I'm talking like specifically unnamed NPCs. Like not one-off, like you only see them in a town named NPCs. I'm literally talking like NPCs that are just copy pastes of other NPCs that like, and they happen to be voiced in a cutscene. Like the worst example is in that town near Myella Abbey where you meet Angelo. Like the fucking masked guy in that cutscene where he's like, "That's it, you I've had enough. Those are my mates. It's like, dude, what the hell is this? What are you trying to play? This is terrible. I hate, like, that's the cringiest voice acting in the game, and I don't even like to use the word cringe that much.
I love cringy voice acting, but yeah.
Anyway, I think, like, I like Dragon Quest VIII story. I thought it was pretty good. I liked how since the game had a much smaller playable cast compared to some of the previous entries, where it had a lot more focus on their individual stories and, you know, why they were the way that they were. Like, one of my favorite cutscenes in the game is when it's right after Jessica joins the party. You're sailing over to what is it? You're sailing from Peregrine Key. You're
sailing from Port Prospect to Peregrine Key.
All right. So I had it backwards. So yeah. Anyway, so when you're sailing to Peregrine Key, Yangus tells the story then of how he and the governor, or the Gov, which is the hero, he tells the story of how the two of them met and how it was an epic tale full of laughter, thrills, and tears. Like, it's a funny little cutscene, and I like that the game took the time to, you know, have these little cutscenes to show that too. I especially liked how with it's after Angelo joins the party. You can sleep. It's a completely optional scene too. There is a cutscene you can witness at a church on your way to the. I'm terrible with names. It's a Scantha, if I remember right.
Yep,
you're heading down that way. Yeah, okay.
It's
you're heading down to a Scantha. Yeah, you're heading down to a Scantha, and there's the Riverside Church you can go to. And there's actually a cutscene you can see where Trode wakes up in the middle of the night. He goes out and finds Angelo, and Angelo reveals his backstory to him. And it's cool because it's in this sepia tone style cutscene. But as we also learned, thanks to King Zenith, who's been on the podcast before, that scene actually does have full color to it. The sepia tone thing was just something that they just did for the flashback effect. So that's kind of a nice little detail to find out about years later. But anyway, I thought the story, you know, moved along at a pretty good pace for the most part. There's a few times where it's like, okay, we could have probably sped things up along here, but, you know, it's pretty enjoyable. There's some good NPCs that you come across. The party is a good, like, lineup of characters and personalities. And with the 3DS version, they had some fun new additions too, with Red becoming a playable character and with good old Mori being an optional party member too, which if you haven't looked on the Dragon's Den before, please visit the Dragon Quest VIII portion of the den and you will find a guide to help you get Mori as quick as you can. There's my little self-plug for the guide I made. But
I actually used that guide before I even joined the den, so
hey, there we go. But yeah, I really enjoyed Dragon Quest VIII when I played. I like the story a lot, and I don't really have much else to say because most everything else has already been said. But I will say that Dragon Quest VIII, I really enjoyed it too because it does have, as you can probably guess, my favorite Dragon Quest character in it. And that's right, it's the character that I'm named after. Good old Yangus himself. Yeah. Very fun character, very relatable character in a few ways. But just definitely. Overall, like...
I saw your underpants dance a couple weeks ago. You're right. Spot on. Spot on.
Yeah.
I think my kids went to the bathroom.
But yeah.
Did you wait? Is it you really did the underpants dance and
yeah, in the middle of the restaurant, I pulled out two pairs of underwear and started doing the underpants dance.
Okay.
Yep. I mean, we met at 11 a.m. The place was dead. It was fine.
Yeah, it's fine. There are no cops around that morning. It's all good.
Video or it didn't happen.
No.
I'll throw it in the chat.
Bringing it back on topic, I will say that the one part of the plot that I actually think is excessive is when you're trying to get the boat. So the first thing is that you find out, oh, there's an ancient ship in a wasteland on the northern continent. You go to the wasteland. The ship is like, super far inland. So you end up going to Trodain, which is, pretty close by. And that's a really good sort of reason to go back. And Liam's right that, you find the flashbacks of, the hero as a soldier guarding the wall, waking up after the curse was placed on the castle. However, once you figure out how to get the ship out of the wasteland, you then have to go on another fetch quest to get a special harp for it, and there's a whole extra dungeon that comes along with it. And I know, like, the boss of that extra dungeon is iconic, and I love Don Mole, but I feel like that extra step to get the boat was just a little bit too much. So I always just sort of roll my eyes when I get to that part. And granted,
That is a
it's not that
long series there. You're right.
it's a long series. I think that extra part was a little bit unnecessary. However, I mean, it does tie Askentha back into sort of the greater whole. So like I get it, but also meh. That's the only part where I just sort of
You're ready to get off that
into
continent.
it.
Like, it's a boat. It's a boat. Cool. I can explore the rest of the world.
Yeah.
But wait, no, you can't. Not for about another 3 hours. Put a break on that.
Yeah.
3. It's probably a lot more than that by the time you go up to Trodain and everything.
Yeah.
It's probably a good 5 or more by the time you see the boat and get to ride the boat.
Yeah. But oh gosh, what was the other thing with the story I was going to talk about? I guess this one is more 3DS specific, but I did like that we did get to see a bit more of Dual Magus before he became crazy psychotic clown man. And you actually got to see some of his history, and you actually got to see Master Rylus, which that was kind of surprising. I'm like, oh my god, they actually made a model for him. Because in the original game you don't get to see him at all. Like,
That's true.
there's no picture, there's no nothing. It's all just hearsay about who he was. So it was really interesting that with the 3DS version that that was one of the additions that I did like that they added in to kind of show a little more of his backstory before Dual Magus ended up being a corrupted the corrupted person, that we see him as in the original game.
He just wanted to be a good magician.
Yep.
So does that, all right. So Yangus, you mentioned your favorite character is Yangus. My favorite character is also Yangus and the Yoda version of Trode from the PS2 version. There is definitely something more Yoda-like about the original Trode than the 3DS Trode. I think they were taking a step back when they recast.
Wait, they recast?
Didn't they? It sounds very.
It's the same voice actor.
Really, is it?
They didn't.
Yeah,
I don't even
Jessica
think
was recast entirely, but Trode's
Maybe
same.
it's the speaker quality.
Wow.
I think it's
Honestly,
quality.
you can tell a difference between the older audio and the newer audio because some of the actors, their voices sound a lot more clear in the newer recorded. Like, best example of that is at the cutscene with Angelo I was talking about. So the 3DS version added some new dialogue in at that point, which I think they did to try and better explain some of the points of his backstory. And if you have headphones on and you listen to that cutscene, you can tell what parts are the new recorded lines for Angelo's voice actor and what lines are the old recordings, because there's a difference in the quality of the audio itself. I think for the most part, the 3DS version was able to get the original audio transferred over just fine. But there are a few times where you can definitely be like, oh, this is definitely new recorded audio, especially if you've played the original PS2 version of the game. It's nothing that's like super distracting, but if you've played it, you can probably immediately be like, oh, okay, that's new. That's a new recording.
Trode sounded very different to me to the point where I thought it was a new actor recording the lines. So you're saying it's the exact same recording?
Yeah, it's the same guy. Yep.
The only voice actor they changed was Jessica, which I have opinions about too.
Yeah, Jessica's voice actor is the only one that was completely recast, and all of her lines were redubbed.
But wait, other than that, all of the lines were exactly the same from the PS2 version. They just kind of ported it over, so they weren't.
Yeah.
No, not necessarily.
Well,
there are a few other changed ones too. Like there's a censored scene with Master Domenico and David, the servant. So in the original they make David eat the dog food, but since I don't know why, there's probably just some reason I haven't to it why, but they completely changed that in the 3DS version, and they had to they had to record new lines in order to fit the altered cutscene, where it's just like David saying like, yes, I swear I didn't poison it, blah 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 blah, instead of him like actually getting down on all fours and eating the dog food in front of the dog.
Yeah, and there are some new characters that are voiced in the 3DS version as well. One of them being the Hammerhood that you meet in the Waterfall Cave.
There's a lot of monsters that you interact with that now have voice acting, like the King Slime too that's trapped in the well. He has voice acting as well. And then of course there's Cameron that you find in it's right before you team up with Port Prospect, thank you. That you find him and he'll give you the camera side quest, which is brand new to the 3DS version. He was an entirely new character, so. But all the other voice actors though, Liam, they came back for their roles and everything, which is actually pretty impressive that they were able to get everybody from nearly a decade ago to come back and record new lines for these characters.
Cool. Yeah. So some of it was new then, and I guess some of the party chat had changed, and they had to record new lines. And I love that they used Ricky Grover as Yangus for not only the PS2 but also the 3DS and Dragon Quest Heroes. And he wasn't in 2, right?
Yeah, he's in 2, but he's not a main party member. He's just only usable in like the online multiplayer stuff. I remember right.
Okay. Did they have voice acting for it?
I mean, everybody has voice acting when, you use them and like when you use abilities and things like that. I have not done a whole lot of the bonus characters in Dragon Quest Heroes 2, but I would assume that they mostly used the dialogue from Heroes 1.
Yeah, they probably do, because I don't think they have any plot relevance. They're just kind of like, oh, hey, here's these characters. You can use them.
They're just magical and able to be used in the dimensional dungeons.
Yeah, just a fun little extra.
So Blue, who is your favorite character?
Do you even have to ask? Actually, wait. Usually this gets asked in the getting to know your guests version.
Charmels.
It is not Charmels.
Yes, it is.
It is not.
Yes, it is.
It's his wife.
I refuse to believe
otherwise. It is not his wife. It is Princess Medea who is not his wife. In no version of events.
I always have a follow-up question. Horse form or human form?
Centaur form, obviously.
Centaur. Yeah.
Human form, but but like horse form does a lot to her character, so like you can't really have one without the other. But
exactly, centaur form, boom, they get best of both worlds. I'm sorry. Go ahead. She's just a really sweet character, and I just sort of relate to her a lot, just as trying to be, helpful and useful to everybody, even though, she's a horse, and, just trying to fulfill her duty and not be a burden to the people around her. It's also really unique how her character gets developed, because it's entirely through optional cutscenes that you see either when you visit the spring or sleep at an inn after specific story events come on. So it's a lot of people. It's easy to miss her story and her character development and how sort of devoted and thankful she is to the party for what they're doing for her, which is really sad to me, because the fact that people miss out on it it's just so sad, because it's such a good story and all of that. And I feel like I'm rambling on a little bit, but also there's a lot of pain with having a minor character as your favorite character, because she's never going to be a unit in Dragon Quest Tact, which is very yeah.
Platty, how about who's your favorite character?
So I'd have to go definitely with Yangus in the original release,
Yay.
but I think if Mori was playable in the original, it might have been Mori.
Oh yes, you know what? I fully agree, because if Mori was in the original, it would be such a hard fucking toss up. Oh my god.
Oh yeah. I mean, when I played the 3DS version, I kicked Angelo and Jessica to the side for the two new ones, but I couldn't get rid of Yangus. Like, Yangus was always in the party. It's 1A and 1B at that point.
You know what? That's really funny, Platty, because like, besides just the joke with me being named after Yangus and stuff, that's the same way that I was. I never kicked Yangus out of the party ever in my whole 3DS playthrough.
Yep.
And I saw everybody who was like, oh, you need to replace him once you get Mori or Red because his damage output's not as good. And it's like, are you kidding me? Yangus is like a great tanky character, and with him being as slow as he is too, he's one of the perfect characters to use as a end of the entire turn, like a Sage Stoner, to use a Tremble of Tension to get everybody up to 5%. 5 or 20, however much you can get before you decide to use it. Tension boost, because then your next turn your characters are going to have a bit stronger spells or attacks and stuff. Even if it's just a little bit, it's like he's a great support character by the end of the game.
Yeah, no doubt. I've used him in all different ways. There's plenty of ways to go with that build.
Oh yeah,
for him. But no, yeah, definitely he's my 1A, but Mori by the 3DS remake is a 1B top tier guy there.
Oh yeah, Mori's so much fun to use too. Like, I think when we saw Japanese trailers and they revealed that Mori and Red were going to be new playable characters. Red was kind of cool, but Mori was like, oh fuck yeah, dude, Mori.
I mean, he's the beta Sylvando.
He is, but he is like the total ladies' man. He has all these sexual innuendos, which he either purposely or accidentally does. I totally think it's the former. He purposely does it, but he just plays it off.
Variety is the life of spices.
But yeah, he's such a fun side character, and it's no wonder that he became like sort of the mascot character for that one Dragon Quest Battle Victory Road game, and why he appeared. He also was in what game is that? It's that Yangus spinoff, Young Yangus, for the PS2. He appears in that one as well. So I mean, like, even back then he was already making his mark on other players and on the series as a whole. So that was pretty cool. If I had to say one other character that I'm personally a big fan of, and I'm sure it's a very controversial pick, but I love him anyway, it's good old Prince Charmles, aka the best NPC in the game. Like, I unironically love Charmles just because he's such a little shit. Like, he is by far like the most annoying and worst like Prince character in the series, but I love him. I love him because he's just such a turd, and he just thinks he's like God's gift to Earth.
At some point, you got to go with the unabashedly turd.
I know. It just I've tried so hard in some of my playthroughs of 8 to try and beat one of the Argon lizards before he can hightail it out of a battle. I never can, though. I'm just so tempted to try and like over level just because I want to see it happen. Like, if he just kind of just stands there and it's just like, like if he happens to stick around in the battle or not. But yep, I get a laugh out of him every time, mainly because his voice actor too in the English version, he speaks with an Elmer Fudd type of voice. Well, he says his is like he's speaking like this, you wascally wabbit.
Wait, I'm not ready yet.
I'm not ready. He just reminds me of like if Elmer Fudd had a son that became a spoiled prince or something. Be very, very quiet. I'm hunting Argon wizards.
As tribute to my heroism.
Well, this sounds like a perfect segue to our next question for everybody. Best lines in the game, and I'll go first and give the best line in the game, like totally. I guess you already brought up like Mori, like literally every line's got some sort of sexual innuendo. I need to pull him up here on like the Dragon Quest wiki and just read through his skill list because his skills are hilarious when you read them.
Oh,
but
yeah, definitely one of his best ones is from his boomerang line for sure. But you're pulling up the list, so why don't you let us know what it is when you find it?
I will.
I'm sure you can guess what I'm talking about.
Yep, I will find that in a minute. But his favorite line comes from when you're in the battle arena and you want to battle your own team, and he just busts that with, you know what, you never know the depths of your own passion until you play with yourself. And just that line.
Point of information. It's not when you go and ask to, it's when you beat the required rank and he unlocks it for you. He's just like, I'll let you fight your own team. It'll be great. This is exactly what you wanted. I know. It's like, no, I wanted more monster slots.
All right, so here you go, Yangus. The boomerang skill. It is his 100 skill point 1. It's called Swing Both Ways.
I love that. When I saw that in like the English trailer for him, I was dying laughing. I'm like, they did not name it that, did they?
Oh yeah,
it's real.
His highest fisticuff skill is Passion Plunge. Passion is one of his skill trees, and you got Monster Mia, Grande Gusto. It's all his stuff. He's got some magic skills, Monster's Musk, because he can attract the monsters. But his clubs, Power Pummel, Feel the Beat. He's got some good stuff.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so who else?
For best lines? The only thing I could think of was just core Blimey.
Oh well, yeah.
And all the amount of times he just jumps up, surprise, Yangus.
I feel almost lost because I quote this game all the time, and whenever you ask best lines, I just like forget every line that exists in the game. I guess I remember Medea saying, if it's a choice between marrying that twit or being a horse, you can make mine a grass sandwich. And it's a sick burn from Medea.
That's awesome.
Sick burn. Yeah, well, a lot of my favorite lines definitely come from Trode and Yangus, but I think probably, and actually this my favorite I can't talk. My favorite lines come from my favorite cutscene, which I talked about a little bit ago, Yangus's backstory. I've definitely watched that cutscene several times, too many, because I can recite that whole thing when Yangus is telling the story, and it's the back and forth between him and Trode. But the best part, by far, is when Yangus formally introduced himself. He's like, "Me, hearing my name is enough to make anyone wet their knickers. That's right. You're talking to none other than Yangus, the legendary bandit himself." I could do the whole thing if I really wanted to right now, but I won't, so for the sake of time.
It's
You
also
just
really
reminded
cool
me-
when Medea says "Core Blimey" at the end.
Oh yeah, we
Um,
gotta talk about the best cutscene in the game, where Trode is fighting off a bunch of soldiers with nothing but a stick.
I was
Best
gonna say the
fucking
bar
cutscene
fight.
in the game. I don't
The
care
bar-
what anybody says.
The bar fight was pretty memorable.
Oh yeah, the bar fight's
Oh,
great.
yeah.
It's like I think isn't there like the hero's just like watching it, and then
Yep,
there's like a
he's
bunch
just
of stuff
standing there
getting
watching.
thrown at the wall.
And there's mugs being thrown left and right.
Yeah.
It's a great scene.
I love it too. Like in the PS2 version, they added in a few little funny like extra lines of dialogue. I just know this just from comparing to the 3DS version. So, as that bar fight scene is wrapping up, you see Trode suddenly standing there in the corner, like punching the air as Yangus is fighting off all of the thugs and stuff, and you hear Trode just go, "Yes, give him a good biff."
He cheers on the fight in both versions, though, right?
Yeah, no, he does, but like in the original PS2 version that we got here in the West, they added in that just for some extra fun little dialogue for him. But
do you guys have any other vivid memories of the game?
I remember, and I had to fact check this. I think Yangus just he told me I was correct the other night. But I remember being in a robotics team meeting and having all these high school kids arguing with my 5th and 6th robotics team one day, 5-6 years ago, whatever, and they were having this very distinct argument about you should build a robot with tank treads. It's way better to control small movements with tank treads than wheels, which it wasn't. That ended up being crap. But I'm just like, playing around on my phone. Like, I don't really do much on this meeting. These kids are all good. And all of a sudden, like, it blows up like, oh my God, Dragon Quest VII 8 coming to 3DS. So that was one hell of a surprise that I did not expect. That was, I don't think Dragon Quest VII 3DS was the origin of the It's Not Coming, but it very well might have been. And then seeing Dragon Quest VIII 3DS in the same announcement, that was pretty awesome.
It was definitely a shock, but when they sent out the cease and desist to the fan translation team for DQ7 3DS,
it should have been the writing on the wall.
Yeah, that was definitely like wow.
That was a big red flag. Like, whoa, what's going on?
Yeah.
Especially when they never sent one off to all of the other ones around at the same time too.
Let's not mention the other ones. They might get them. A lot of them are still in the works now. Blue, how about vivid memories for you?
So I have a lot of these because this was kind of my first game that I started exploring a bunch in, and I remember we would always get stuck on the southern continent, especially after Ascantha, and on the one hand, I found out after a while that part of the reason was we completely skipped over Simpleton, and so we skipped all of the events with Mayala Abbey, and we completely missed Angelo. We just went straight on to Ascantha, did the events there, and it's like, where do we go now? There's no path. So for a while, that was the point where, my dad kind of stopped playing the game, and at some point I was like, I want to keep going with this. I got to figure out where we're supposed to go. And so I just sort of started running around, and eventually I did find Angelo. However, after we finished the events at Mayala Abbey, we still didn't trigger the scene after Ascantha, where you leave the castle after having the banquet and Trode's all jealous that you guys got to eat good food, and then Yangus suggests going south to pick him to get him a drink. So I'm just like super lost. I don't know where to go. There's no path going anywhere else. So I'm like running around. I think I found every single chest in the area, but then I like opened the map. It's like, okay, where can I go? And I just squinted really hard at the bottom, and you see at the end, there's something down there. I wonder if I can make it there. And so just out on a whim, I just started walking down the beach because I didn't know what else to do. And that's how we continued the story. The other vivid memory that I have is that I did not know how to abuse critical skills to kill metal monsters when I first started. Also, I'm pretty sure we mained boomerangs and clubs on the hero and Yangus, so we like didn't even have the skills available. So killing a Metal King slime was like virtually impossible. We never really did it, but I was just kind of grinding, running around, doing my best to kill liquid metal slimes and maybe get lucky. And I killed a Metal King slime with damage, and I was so excited. I sprinted up the stairs and screamed at the top of my lungs to my brother and my dad, I just killed a Metal King slime! And I think it's the most excited I've ever been about a video game. Of course, they were mostly like, oh, wow, that's cool. And then they walked down and saw how much experience I got and was like, wow. And they were not as fired up about it as I was, but I was very proud of myself.
Wait, did they give you less than this one? You should have gotten what?
It was
No, more than 10.
no, it's 30,000.
30,000. Okay.
It's 30,000. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what you get in Dragon Quest IX as well, right?
Yeah.
It's probably just they weren't as excited just because they weren't the ones that did it, So
Yeah,
could've just been like,
that's what it
okay,
was.
you did the thing, all right, good.
Picture it didn't happen.
I actually have a screenshot of when I actually got an Orichalcum to drop off the one in the 3DS version. I could probably send you that pic.
All right, we'll get that registered in the yes, it did happen. So it's just talking a little bit about the differences between the PS2 mobile and 3DS. So it was mentioned the photographs is new for the 3DS with gold slimes. The alchemy pot speed was increased starting with the mobile version. We had 2 playable characters with Red and Mori added to the 3DS version. There's definitely some graphical differences. Now I've seen the side-by-side screenshots of all 3, and it's kind of hard to pick a favorite because some of them do things better than the other, like either the quality of the trees or the color. I don't know if you guys have a favorite graphical style. The one thing I will say is the mobile version is probably the clearest in terms of resolution.
Yeah, I'm personally not a fan of how they had to saturate some of the colors for the 3DS release, but I understand there has to be compromises made for getting the game to run on the handheld system.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
But like kind of to echo what Blue had talked about earlier, I do prefer the way that it looked on PS2, mainly because it did, just because of the hardware, I'm sure as well. It helped make the world look a lot bigger and more expressive, and having the orchestral music too also made a huge difference with that as well, because I feel like that was something which I'm sure that there had to be compromises for the Western release that they had to make, for budgetary reasons or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But it definitely was a shame that they did not keep the orchestral music in the Western release. But I'm sure that either they were asking for too much money for it, or Nintendo was like, all right, well, it's one thing or the other, so we're going to focus on, the voice acting and all this stuff instead.
Yeah, that's interesting. We were talking about the musical quality differences earlier, and how the PS2 got orchestral for the Western version, but Japan didn't, and then Japan got orchestral for the 3DS, but North America didn't. So it's interesting. It was we were talking about how they probably added it to the PS2 to try and hype it up and sell a better quality game, that they were then adding also the because they were adding the FF12 demo to it as well. They were really trying to hype it up.
Mm-hmm.
And they added the voice acting for the Western release as well.
Yes. Yeah.
Like the big thing too with the 3DS version, and this is actually something that goes back to when Dragon Quest VII 3DS was coming out in Japan. Apparently behind the scenes, they really had to convince Sugiyama that orchestral music would be a good addition for the 3DS version of 7. So I'm guessing they had to do the same thing for 8. To really convince him that this would be a good addition. I don't know what the fan reception was over in Japan with those additions, but maybe if it wasn't as well liked over there, that could be why they were just like, fuck it, don't put it in the Western release. Just give them the MIDI synth.
Yeah.
Hey, so getting away from the music and back to the graphics, the change was made to show monsters on the overworld.
That's right.
In the 3DS.
Yep.
Because it was random encounters, except for the the special monsters that you could recruit.
Yeah. So it makes it
3DS,
actually it makes it a little bit harder to find those special monsters, though, right?
Yeah.
Did they have something shining above them or something? Or?
They weren't shining. They had a basically like a little speech bubble on top of their head.
That's right. That's
a
right.
pair of crossed swords to say, "Hey, this guy's a
little bit stronger."
Yeah. But hearing Blue talk about killing the Metal King slime, that made me think about it. So with the monsters on there, and I've never seen this in any other game. The monsters on the overworld, if you just spun your camera, it would change the monster that was at spawn points. And you could just keep looking away in certain areas where they had like Metal King slimes and metal slimes, and it was ridiculously easy to find metal monsters in the 3DS version. Farm them was insane. You just like look left, look right. Nope, still a king slime. Look
Just
left,
spin
right.
around
Oh,
in
he
a
turned into a
circle.
Metal King slime. Yep.
Yep.
You just keep spinning until one of them spawned.
Yeah, I definitely abused that in the catacombs below Myella Abbey in order to get Metal Slime Soup here. It's like, hey, you know what? Jessica needs a few more levels. Let's do this for a while.
I remember doing it in the Boneyard, and especially when you're going to like the post game, climbing the mountain up to the Dragovian Sanctuary. I know with some spawn places for Metal King slimes, but between there and the Boneyard, I did some heavy spinning.
Dragon
Graveyard. Sorry. There were bones.
There
It's
were
close
bones,
enough.
I'll give you that, but
Platty, was there some differences in the dungeons as well?
yeah, so they actually, I mean, that was a note that I added. Obviously,
sorry.
I'm not Platty.
You're
Besides-
anonymous chinchilla.
Yes, I am anonymous chinchilla today. So they added 2 dungeons to the 3DS release. One of them was the Altar of Wrath, and the other one was Memories Lane, which Memories Lane was basically a second post-game dungeon that you could unlock with a lot of basically really, really hard refights. And I won't spoil it because I actually haven't gotten to the end of it, but it goes through and...
Do they go chronologically through the game?
Yeah, for the
most
most part.
For the
There's
most
only
part,
a
yeah.
few. There's only
There
a
are-
few that are not like in the order in which you originally fought them in the game itself. Because like I know like halfway through you fight like the Memories version of Ruin, but like after him you fight the Memories version of Marcello. But in the normal game you fight Marcello way before you fight. Well, not way before, but you fight him before Ruin.
Yep.
Just as an example.
I think Ruins before Imperia and Gemin as well. And maybe Leopold even? I don't know.
Yeah.
There's-
No, Leopold is at the end of the first block because
Okay.
he's the first one that really starts giving you a real bang for your buck. Or sorry, wrong expression. He gives you a real run for your money. Because he's one of the first bosses that you learn that poison is really good at killing them because it just absolutely tears through their HP bars.
See, I never used poison, so maybe,
Oh, yeah, it's
maybe if I ever
it's
go back
super
to the
good.
game, I'll be able to do some.
It is
do some
super good
better
on the
things.
Memories Lane bosses because it can do like a max of 999 damage per turn if you get it to stick. It's super useful.
And then the
So what-
Altar of Wrath, I won't bring it up too much because I know Yangus doesn't like it, but it's a
You can
it's a
bring
dungeon.
it up. I just don't like it.
It's a dungeon that you unlock close to the end of the story, and it's kind of a side story that, you know, introduces a little more closure for some of the characters.
Cool. So ending differences. I know they added marriage option
They added,
to
yeah,
the 3DS version. A lot of people love that you can marry Jessica in the 3DS.
and I'm sorry, but they're wrong. These are the people these are the people I was talking about that don't get the story out of Medea because it's all an optional cutscene. Jessica very much, I don't know, I very much get like she looks up to the hero kind of like she did her brother for most of everything. So it's kind of weird to me that people ship them and all that, but you know, to each their own.
Yeah.
I am obviously a little biased, so we
like
can
the
leave
way
it at
that the way that Blue feels is the way that I feel about some of the story stuff they added with that new Dungeon of Wrath thing. That I just am like, okay, you really didn't need to put that in there, but you know, good for people if they like it, but it's not for me, and I will fully admit to it.
Platty, what do you think? Were there any
Me-
other ending differences we forgot to mention too?
No,
No, not really.
I mean, I wasn't gonna marry Jessica. That it was pointless. I didn't need it in there.
Okay. Yeah, I'd say a lot of people would debate that the 3DS is the best version because of the extra content and being able to and adding that marriage in there. But they could have been talking about all of the other content that was added to the game. Not
the
necessarily
extra marriage option is absolutely not the reason you play the 3DS version. I'm sorry, I will die on that hill. But
Yeah.
best version debate, it's really hard for me right now. I actually have a partner who he actually just rolled credits on Dragon Quest XI a couple of weeks ago, and I cannot bring myself to tell him to play one of the versions of Dragon Quest VIII because I just feel like there isn't a good one to play right now.
Right.
I mentioned earlier that the 3DS with the graphical changes and the music changes and just the fact that it's on a teeny tiny screen, you just lose a lot of, the reason that I loved the game in the first place, which is just sort of the vastness and the expansiveness and just sort of the way that the world sort of draws you in.
Right.
And all of it just is totally lost having it on a handheld system. However, I also understand that the PS2 version is a 2005 game.
Right.
So obviously there's a lot of, quality of life improvements that came from
the mobile and from the 3DS.
the mobile and from the 3DS. And so someone who's not really used to RPGs, they're not going to enjoy the PlayStation 2 version probably.
Yeah.
I still will play the PlayStation 2 version because I think it holds up really well for someone who's not picky about RPGs, and random battles are fine for me. I actually enjoy the old alchemy pot mechanic of where it takes some time, but you get a ding and it's suddenly, let's go see what came out of it. I didn't think that was a huge detriment, although I can see where people would be excited to be able to make a bunch of stuff at once. So that's part of it. I also totally just sat the controller upside down with the joystick pressed forward and ran into a corner in Peregrine K to make a bunch of stuff for Jessica when she joined. But
yeah, I never had a problem with that mechanic until at the end. I think I was trying to do one of the bonus Dragovian ones.
Right.
I was trying to make the is it the Cathalicon ring that basically has immunity to most every status effect.
Yes. Yeah.
And oh my god, I was trying to make 4 of those and all the steps for all the other ones.
Okay,
that was brutal. But you're right. When I played it the first time, that's just the way it was, and it was fine. I didn't have a problem with it until that.
Platty, do you have a best version?
I'd have to go with the 3DS. I find having Mori in the party just so much fun. I don't even have a PS2 anymore, so I wouldn't play it. It's beautiful. That's great, but I do 99% of my gaming on handheld devices, so it's almost by default. That's what I'd play.
Yeah, it's hard. I understand being undecided on this because it's hard to pick a best version because one of them does something better than the other. Even the mobile version I think has pretty crisp graphics, but at the same time, you don't get the full feel of the expansiveness of the world that you would in the PS2 version, like you said, Blue. And the 3DS has all this extra content, but it is a graphical downgrade in a way. So yeah, I don't know. Probably the best version to play is whichever one you can find cheapest on the, which I guess
the one that you're currently playing.
Yes,
that's the best.
The one that you don't have to pay hundreds of dollars to get because somebody on the used market decided to jack up the price all the price gougers. Anyway, but does anybody else have anything to say with the best version debate?
No, I don't really have a huge preference. I don't remember if I really said it either, but I don't really have a huge honestly, if the 3DS version had the orchestral music by default, I'd be like, oh yeah, just go with that version. But I really at this point, I don't know. I don't really have a single preference, to be quite honest. I think they both have their strengths and weaknesses. It's kind of like with my argument for Dragon Quest VII versus the PS1 version versus the 3DS version. They both have their strong suits.
Yeah.
There's people that's going to prefer one or the other, but from my own personal taste and from playing both versions, I like both for what they do. And it's the same way with the 3DS and PS2 versions of Dragon Quest VIII. They both, visually they look the same, but they each do their own little things differently that it makes me enjoy both of them for what they are. And I don't really have one that I'm like, oh, this is the absolute superior version.
Yeah. It's almost like probably the best advice would be to just play all three and make your decision, or at least play the PS2 and 3DS versions.
I was gonna say let's not go on record on recommending the mobile version of this. I did it. I rolled the credits, and I think I even beat every one of the dragons because I was like, well, this is my third time doing it. I better eventually do this. But no. I'm not comfortable saying that.
Yeah, no.
If that's what you got,
that one either.
It was a perfectly valid way to play it. I liked it.
Fair enough. If you have a hankering for really crisp graphics but no voice acting, Then
If you want to play the 3DS version without some of the new 3DS stuff, play that version.
Well, even the menus and everything was old school Dragon Quest, man. There were no graphical menus in the.
Oh no, that's another
yeah.
thing that they changed in the 3DS version.
Oh yeah,
So
we've heard all about that too from a denizen who shall remain nameless, but I'm sure Platty and Liam can guess who I'm talking about.
It can also be me.
No. You. I don't want to get into this because I don't want this to, we don't want to go on this for too long. But there's a user who we've heard many complaints about that from, and it's not. It's someone else. And this person shall remain nameless, but it's very like one of those eye rolling things where it's like, here we go again.
However, the menu in Dragon Quest VIII, it's in the PlayStation 2 version. Sorry, I guess it's all Dragon Quest VIII. It's just it's like actual parchment type background, and it's got different tabs, and
I like it.
It's really cute and beautiful, and you can like see all of the icons of items and things like that, and you just get text in the 3DS version, and it's kind of boring.
Reading.
You also get the sound of the wagon in the PS2 version.
I hated that. I did not like that at all.
What I didn't like is turning around and not seeing the wagon. What am I hearing? And exactly. The wagon is immediately behind you again without making noise. But I thought it was. I don't know. I kind of like that. The only way for me
to be close to Medea was to hear the wagon sound.
Yes.
I was not a fan of that. I thought that was something that I guess it's a nice little effect, but I didn't like it. I'll be honest.
I thought it was cool. It was like, you imagine it behind you.
Yeah, it's annoying though whenever you stop taking steps and all of a sudden you start up again, you suddenly hear her go, nay, and then the wagon will start going. It's like, shut up. That was cute the first time. Stop doing it.
All right, so then 3DS for you, PS2 for me.
That's something admittedly I'm not a fan of from the PS2 or from the PS2 one. It's like, okay, it was nice the first time. You don't need to keep doing it, game. Thank you.
All right, to each their own. I like that.
It's like when you politely are trying to tell somebody, no, that's okay. No, seriously, you don't have to do that. No, stop it.
All right, any other thoughts?
It's a good game. I like it a lot.
Yes.
I like game.
Find what other version you can play it because it's fantastic. And I'm so sorry it took us 3 years to cover this, but I'm really glad we finally got it.
You know what? Since it's taken us 3 years, let's all summarize our feelings on the game in 3 words. Liam, you first.
I love it.
Yeah, that's core Blimey, good.
I like game.
Platty, how about you?
Austin, meh.
Prince Charmels, yay.
Gross.
No.
We totally skipped the monster arena, except for Mori.
Well, we're going to have a separate episode on that in another 3 years.
Okay. Mark your calendars now.
All right, that's it for this episode.
Hold on real quick. I feel like just because of the voice acting thing, just to talk about this, because you brought this up before earlier, Liam.
Yoda?
Yes, the Yoda thing. Like, honestly, I wish at different points they would have just had him be like, go back to Trodain we must. Find Domegus we shall. Yes. I mean, like, it's part of his curse, like, he just starts speaking like Yoda.
He just sounded so much more Yoda-like in the original.
Save horse princess, we will.
Audio, man.
I was like, man, I know what you're doing with that, and I like it.
If they went like full HD remake with this game, he would just look like Yoda.
Yeah.
That's what. There's a meme for you to make. Make a picture where it's like Trodain or a Trode on PS4 Trode on PS2, and then on the right hand image, Trode on PS5, and it's just a picture of Yoda puppet.
Yeah. Well, I can't wait. I can't wait for the Dragon Quest VIII sequel when we have Baby Troda.
Baby Troda. We'll call him.
And on that note, maybe Liam should begin the outro.
Rugi or whatever the fuck they called him.
All right. We began on bad puns. We end on bad puns. That's it for this episode of Slime Time. We'd like to thank Yangus and Bluestar for joining the party.
Join party, we did.
It took us long enough, but hey, we got here. Now we just need to go off on 30 more tangents so we can finally get to the end.
Hey, speaking of tangents,
speaking of places that we don't go to Patreon, because we don't use Patreon. We don't half-inch your hard-earned money when we can offer you all of our quality content, puns, and talk about the game series that we know and love for free. If you do have some money that is just completely burning a hole in your wallet, pouch, bottomless bag, or searchable wall sack, and you would like to donate anything to a website that's been supporting Dragon Quest fans for over 20 years, go ahead, stop by the Dragon's Den at www.woodus.com/den, click on support the site. Woodus has owned and maintained the Dragon's Den DQ fan site for decades. He personally edits every YouTube version of our podcast, and he fully appreciates any donations to help keep the servers running. Also, he reminded us recently that we've got Slime Time merch over there. We got t-shirts and stuff that he's got links to if you would like some Slime Time merch, because a little bit of that will go as a kickback to him too.
Yep. And the Dragon's Den website also features an Amazon affiliate link. If you click on the link and make a purchase, a small fraction of the sale will go to support the den, and it doesn't cost you anything.
So to advertise with us, you can also reach out at slimetimepodcast@gmail.com. Or if you're that random person that reached out to me 2 years ago to bitch about my avatars changing all the time. Hey, I got a new avatar this month. Let me tell you. Tell me how you like it.
That. I'm sorry
we'll
to interrupt, but I
we'll have them on
the
the podcast next month.
There you go.
Oh boy, I forgot all about that.
This episode is brought to you by Econolodge. There's an old adage that you pay for what you get, but in this case, you pay and you get a room, a Q-tip, and the previous occupant's ear secretions. Or possibly not the last occupant, but maybe some previous occupant, depending on how long the Q-tip has been there. That's Econolodge for economic lodgings and more.
And free Q-tips.
Yeah. Hey, also, special shout out to the Motel 6 in Page, Arizona. You know what? You may not have had a mini fridge. You may not have had a microwave, but holy shit, you more than made up for it with all those huge signs everywhere across the hotel. Don't do this. Don't get too much ice. Don't use the coffee machine here. Don't do that. Oh my God. But you know what? Between the don't do signs and the beer bottle openers screwed into the bedroom wall, good job. This desert warm beer is for you.
We're never going to get actual advertisers. We keep making sarcastic ads.
Hey, you know what? The more the merrier. Keep going, Platty. Fight the good fight.
Yeah.
If you got any comments or questions for a Slime Time podcast, you can also find us on Twitter and Instagram at DQ Slime Time.
Consider joining in tons of DQ discussions of the Dragon's Den forums, one of the few remaining forums still around. Find it on the Dragon's Den main page at www.woodus.com/forums. And you can also find all of us and all of us rabid DQ fans posting on the Dragon Questers Facebook group.
Or you can come hang out with us and tons of other hardcore fans on the officially unofficial Dragon's Den Discord server.
I'd like to thank everyone that made this possible, like Woodus, for his support of the series and this podcast and keeping the Dragon's Den's lights on for decades. Thanks to Amanda Lepre and the Descendants of Verdrick for allowing us to use their music for our podcast. Descendants of Verdrick is a video game tribute band from Austin, Texas. Check them out and their album Advent at www.descendantsofverdrick.com or on Twitter at @DiaVerdrick, and check out Amanda Lepre streaming on Twitch.
Our thanks as always to Dwayne Bullock, our wonderful graphic artist, DQ fan, for making the awesome artwork cover for this podcast. Dwayne was on the original iteration of the Slime Time podcast almost a decade ago, and he's been on many of our episodes, arriving on time and late sometimes, like the last one. But you can check out more of his work at Dwayne Art on Instagram or his website, dwaynebullocart.bigcartel.com.
And please like, subscribe, and write a review for the podcast. If you're looking for more Dragon Quest Slime Time, check out our earlier episodes on Dragon's Den, Anchor FM, Apple Podcasts, Audible, YouTube, and more. And check out our brothers and sisters in arms over at the Slime Time Side Quest podcast. Their latest episodes are available now.
And Tactfully Die too.
Yes, that's true. This is an old outline.
When we copy and paste, we do it really poorly.
Yeah. So
and on that note,
well, also check out the latest episode of Tactfully Die. I believe episode 5 was released recently.
Yes. Yeah. Cool.
Slime Time Extended Universe.
Yes.
Enjoy I can't wait for the Yangus and Pals episode, or at the Yangus and Pals sub-series. It's going to
be the next spinoff.
Yep. Is that not what SideQuest is?
Good point.
Well, enjoy some more stew, and bye, everyone.
Dragon Quest Slime Time, sliming off.